Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about all the books I read in September. It was a wide range of genres, and I'm going to talk about all the books I finished in September. So there's some books I'm still reading, some books I read last month that I finished in this book, so I'm going to talk about them today. And I'm going to go back to how I've been doing these videos, with just talking about the books that I enjoyed the least, to talking about the books I enjoyed the most, to make these videos more positive. So unfortunately, the first book that I have to flame is Fear the Flames by Olivia Rose Darling. I unfortunately gave this 2 stars, but the reason why I gave this 2 stars is because I read multiple books at once, and while I was reading this, I was reading The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin, and she's the best sci-fi author of all time. So when you're comparing those two, a rookie author like Olivia Rose Darling really falls down in the rating, so just out of sheer comparison, I just had to give it 2 stars. So there are a number of issues that kind of frustrated me with this book, although it was fun. There is a ton of proverbs. They were not insightful, they were not helpful, they were not interesting, they were not useful, they just needed to be taken out of the book. And an example of one of them is, people remain ignorant when they didn't open their mind to new teachings. And it's a ton of these proverbs in the book, and you're just like, why are these in there? They're not insightful. And there was a ton of cliched lines, like the line, touch her and you die, is actually in this book. And I'm like, this is so overused, this should not be in any romantasy book. Also, there was actually too much spice, which is something that I rarely say. And even there's a point in the book where the plot was manipulated so that the characters could be intimate, and that really did not make sense. And I'm also just very frustrated with the overly spicy book like this when the female lead Elowen was like, we can't be together, we can't be together. I'm like, why are you saying this if you're going to be intimate with him? You have 5 books in the series. You have plenty of opportunities for there to be spice. Why is the first book so spicy? So I just had a few issues. It was pretty fun book, but yeah, I could tell she's not a super experienced author. But if you are new to fantasy, I recommend this to you, but if you're well versed in fantasy, I would tell you to skip out on this book. But I do have a fun drawing of a dragon in my journal, so I didn't hate it that much. So the next book I'm going to talk about is Immortality by Dana Schwartz. This is the sequel to Anatomy, a Love Story. I really enjoyed Anatomy, a Love Story, so I wanted to continue on. This duology is about a young girl who wants to be a surgeon, but she is not allowed to study medicine because this is a historical fiction book and women were not welcome in the field. And this book was amazing at first, but then hit an issue with me at chapter 16, and everything that was introduced in that chapter and all the characters that we met in that chapter, I don't think they should be in the book. Completely took me out of the book, the reading experience, and for that I had to take a star off the rating. So unfortunately, I wouldn't recommend Immortality, but I would recommend Anatomy. The next book I read was Daydream by Hannah Grace. I gave this 3 stars, but unfortunately the writing did not work for me. I thought that there was a ton of redundant inner monologue, and also there's a lack of chemistry between Hallie and Henry. And if you're wondering, yes, I did buy this because the main character's name is Hallie and my name is Hallie. Yes, that's the only reason why I bought this book. But I've heard other booktubers say that they did lack a lot of chemistry and tension, and they just kind of like felt like friends the whole time reading the book. But if you like that, you like a couple that feels like friends and there's not a lot of spice, then this book would be for you. But the issue that was bigger problem than there being a lack of tension was a lack of plot. This book does not have a plot. You just follow them going to a series of parties. So they go to a Halloween party, then a birthday party, then a Christmas party, then a New Year's party. And I just don't want to read about a bunch of people just going to parties and a book that doesn't have a plot. So I wouldn't say this is me, but I enjoyed it. It did kind of drag on, but I liked it enough to give it 3 stars. Then I read The Kiss Curse, which is the sequel to The X-Hex. I really enjoyed both books. I gave them both 4 stars. This book is about 2 rivaling witch families and 2 couples that form a bout because they're put together in certain circumstances. I don't want to explain the plot at all because the plot really kicks off at the end of The Kiss Curse, and I don't want to spoil the book to you, so I'm not going to explain the plot. But this was, I think, spicier than the X-Hex. But, let me know what you think about that. So that was kind of surprising. But I enjoyed it. I liked the romance. I liked the humor. And it worked for me. And I really enjoyed it. I love witchy rom-coms. I don't know why. Like, I'm not a huge Halloween person, but I just love Halloween rom-coms and witchy rom-coms. So please recommend them in the comment section below. I don't know why I can't stop reading them. The next book I read was Aurora's End by Jade Kristoff and Amie Kaufman. This is a YA sci-fi series. This is the third book in the Aurora cycle series. The first book is Aurora Rising. And I ended up giving this 4 stars, but I'm not sure if it's just because I struggled with the audiobook. So honestly, I would give the audiobook 5 out of 5. It was phenomenal. It had a full cast. It had sound effects. Like, for example, it takes place in space, so they're in starships. And whenever there's a emergency announcement, they'll say, there's a breach on level 12. And that voice through the speaker has a special effect on it. So I was completely immersed. I felt like I was like in space there with them. And it was a really amazing full production. But the audiobook was a double-edged sword. I really struggle with retaining information through audiobooks, and this contained a number of languages and a number of planets, and I could not keep track of the name of everyone's planet and all the languages in my head, and I needed to read it. So I think the best way to read this would be to read a physical book while listening to the audiobook, but I just really struggled to retain information. And audiobooks take way longer for me to get through than actual books. If you asked me how long this audiobook is, I would have said 40 hours. And yes, I did listen to this on 2 times speed. I think the book is supposed to be about 14, like less than 14 hours. But even on 2 times speed, it felt like an eternity. It took me like almost 4 weeks to get through this. So yeah, audiobooks are just, especially long audiobooks, are just not for me. And I don't think I can listen to another long sci-fi or fantasy book on audio. My brain just could not retain everything. So I don't really have any critique for the book. Like, I didn't really have any issues with the book. So I would highly recommend the Aurora Cycle series. If you want to get into sci-fi and you're intimidated, you should start with Aurora Rising. And this series is going to be super easy for you to understand because it is YA. It's very funny. You'll be able to pick up everything very quickly and you'll be really engaged because these books are really amazing. I highly recommend that you get into them. Like, don't even hesitate. I just only struggled because I just struggle with focusing on audiobooks. So that's just my own issue. I don't know how people retain information through audiobooks. Congrats to you, but I can't do it. The next book I read was Writers and Lovers by Lily King. And so this book has very triggering themes, so I'm going to talk about SA. So I'm going to give you guys 5 seconds to advance in this video if you don't want to hear about that. So this book is about a girl named Casey, and you follow her journey as she's a waitress, but she really wants to be a writer. And you also follow her writing life. I would say a little more so than her relationship life. I think her relationship life kind of takes a back seat. It's set in the 90s, and it was not a great time for when women really were, I don't know, like there was less of a norm to protect women and speak out against sexual assault. So a big theme that stood out to me was sexual harassment. Casey is harassed at her workplace. She's a waitress by her coworkers and the guests that come to the restaurant. She's also sexually assaulted by her teacher, and someone in her family sexually harasses someone. So that's not a huge chunk of the book, but it definitely was a reoccurring theme in the book. So I just wanted to take the chance to talk about it because Casey in the book, it talks about her fear of men and how people in the book ask her, do you hate men? And I think it's tough to ask that to someone who has been sexually assaulted. I think everyone knows someone who has been sexually harassed or sexually assaulted by a man. And if you ask me, am I afraid of men? I would say, well, I have been a victim. Thankfully and luckily, I have not been sexually assaulted directly like Casey in the book, but her teacher sexually assaulted her. And at my school, we had 2 pedophiles that were like harassing students at my school. So it's just so sad to see how teachers can take advantage of their position of power and assault students and get away with it. And Casey discussed in the book, why do men support each other and not hold each other accountable for sexual assault and sexual harassment? And even in our country, when we have someone who's a sexual assaulter, they're allowed to be in office and we don't challenge them at all. So why is it that like successful men can sexually assault people and there's no standard and men can get away with everything? So it's just something that I was really thinking about in my own life. And like why we normalize questioning women. Why are you afraid of men? But we don't normalize condemning men who assault women. So this is not mainly what the book is about, but I just wanted to take the chance to talk about it on the channel. I gave this book 4 stars overall, and it wasn't the best literary fiction I've read of all time, but I really liked the themes that came up, and it gave me a lot to think about. So the next book that I'm going to talk about is I'm a Fan by Sheena Patel. I gave this 4 stars. I can tell Sheena Patel is very talented, but I could not give this 5 stars because I don't understand what the intention behind this book was, and I don't think I ever will. Hopefully I can watch an interview where she explains this book, but I'm at a loss of what the intention of this book was, so that was kind of a struggle for me. This book is about an abusive, obsessive woman who is cheating on her boyfriend and abusing him, and she's stalking this man who she's sleeping with, and he is cheating on a bunch of women at the same time. She's stalking all of the women that the man she wants to be with, which is his name in the book, and she's stalking all the families, everyone he knows, all the women he's sleeping with knows, and we don't know her name. She just goes by the pronoun I, and we don't have any character names in the book. Now, so on one side, this was very disturbing. She's abusing her boyfriend, and she is, honestly, I just hated her. But then I thought, is she mentally ill? Like, what is happening here? But then on the other side, they were great social commentary about racism, capitalism, privilege, sexism, classism, colonization, and the limited sexual capacity of women versus the continuous sexual capacity of men. So an example of that is the quote, the character who's named the man I want to be with says, this is about him. He needs time to decide. Oh, sorry. He can still say, he might want children at an age where for a woman, this would be impossible. The fact that he can say this says everything about the power he holds versus the power my fertility has over me, the upper hand men have over women. Because although women experience the infinite, our value is not seen as infinite. Our value is tied to our small window of production, and it's a daily effort to fight the fear that we have no value outside of the parameters of marriage and children. So this book, I think it's about the power that a white man who's very successful has over a woman of color, and how that affects her in society and how she reflects on that. And it's one of those books where she's like fully aware of the power that he has, yet she still keeps coming back to him, and she's determined to be with him even though he is not giving her the relationship that she wants. The man is not ending all of his other relationships to be with her, and I don't know if he's driving her mad or she already had some sort of mental illness, but this book really had me in two minds, because I just could not stand this woman, because she was very abusive and mean and obsessive and stalking people. And on the other hand, she had a really great critique about society. So, and the different power structures and hierarchies at play. So, I do not know what the intention of the book is. So hopefully I can watch an interview and maybe find out. But I do recommend this. But yeah, this isn't for the weak. If this book made you mad too, let me know. So the last book I'm going to talk about today is Jade City by Fonda. I gave this 5 stars. I buddy read this, and that helped me get through it a lot faster. I read like 3 or 4 chapters a day, and that just helped me get through it in a timely way. I bought this last summer, and I finally got around to reading it in September. I'm glad I did. This is about a family that, I wouldn't say gangs. They are a gang family, but they use violence to maintain their power over this region. And there's only special bloodlines that can wield Jade in a way that kind of works with their body and is healthy, because some people cannot harness Jade and it makes them go mad. So it is like a rarity to be able to control Jade. And you just follow this family. All the perspectives are from the same family, and you see how the power that they yield and the power that they're trying to hold on to affects the family, how it brings them together, how it tears them apart. So the major themes are like politics, family, and this book has it all. It has action, it has romance, it has a little spice, it has politics, it has fantasy, so it really has the whole gambit. So I really enjoyed it. The writing was amazing. Although there was a ton that happened in this book, I would say it was a little bit slow, because I think it was setting up for the rest of the series, but I may be the only one who thought that. There's still a ton that happened, but I could tell this was just really setting the stage for the other 2 books. So I wasn't sure if I was going to continue the series, but I think I will. I like to take a long time between books in the series, so maybe next year I will pick up Jade Legacy. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.